The richest man on Earth gave up almost everything he owned, not because he had to, but because he understood something most people never will. In 2020, announced that he would sell nearly all of his physical possessions, no mansions, no luxury lifestyle, no safety net of material comfort, just a small prefabricated home placed near his work in South Texas. At first glance, it sounds irrational, almost absurd. Why would someone with hundreds of billions of dollars choose to live like that? But this wasn't a breakdown. It wasn't a publicity stunt. It was a calculated psychological move, a deliberate shift towards something far more powerful than wealth. It was detachment. Because what Musk understood is that ownership is not as simple as it looks. Most people think ownership equals control, but in reality, ownership often means responsibility. And responsibility at scale becomes friction. Most people spend their entire lives climbing a mountain made of stuff. Bigger house, better car, more expensive lifestyle, a higher status location. We are conditioned from childhood to believe that accumulation equals success. That more equals better. But no one explains what happens at the top of that mountain. Because at the top, you're not free. You're buried. Buried under maintenance. Buried under decisions. Buried under obligations you never consciously agreed to, but now cannot escape. Every upgrade you thought would simplify your life quietly made it more complex. And this is where psychology reveals something uncomfortable. There is a cognitive bias known as the Endowment Effect. The moment something becomes yours, your brain begins to overvalue it, not because it objectively has more worth, but because it is now attached to your identity. You don't just own the object becomes a part of you. And once that happens, letting go no longer feels like a rational decision, it feels like a loss. But ownership comes with a hidden cost that most people never calculate. Every single thing you own demands a piece of your mental energy. A house is not just a place to live, it is a system, security, maintenance, repairs, cleaning, staffing, taxes, risk management, constant decision-making. Even when you're not actively thinking about it, your brain is running silent background processes, draining energy. Now multiply that across everything you own, and suddenly your life isn't just full, it's overloaded. This leads to something psychologists call decision fatigue. The gradual erosion of your ability to make high-quality decisions because your brain is exhausted from making too many low-value ones. By the time most people sit down to do meaningful work, their cognitive energy is already depleted. But Musk recognized something critical. His most valuable asset was not money. It was cognitive bandwidth. The ability to think clearly, to focus intensely, to solve problems that no one else can solve. And in that context, every unnecessary decision becomes a liability. Every distraction becomes expensive. So he made a radical move. He removed the noise, not to live with less, but to operate at a higher level. This is the real meaning of detachment. It's not about minimalism for aesthetics. It's not about living with nothing. It's about eliminating everything that interferes with your ability to think, act, and create at your highest capacity. Musk didn't simplify his life. He optimized it. Because high-level output requires low-level distractions to be eliminated. Completely. And this leads to a brutal truth. If your identity is tied to your possessions, you are not the owner. You are the caretaker. You are maintaining an image, protecting it, feeding it, defending it. And in the process, you slowly lose control over your own attention. We live in an era dominated by conspicuous consumption. People buying things they don't need to impress people who aren't even paying attention. It's not about utility anymore. It's about validation. And validation is addictive. You upgrade your phone, your clothes, your lifestyle, not because your life demands it, but because your identity feels incomplete without it. But every upgrade adds weight. More payments, more expectations, more mental load, more noise. Musk rejected that entire system. He ignored the unwritten billionaire script that says success must be visible, that wealth must be displayed, that status must be proven. Instead, he applied something called first principles thinking, breaking everything down to its fundamental truth. What do I actually need to perform at my best? Not what looks impressive, not what society expects, what actually works. And the answer was simple: proximity to his work, minimal friction, maximum focus. A mansion might look powerful, but if it adds distance between you and your mission, it's inefficient. A luxury lifestyle might signal success, but if it fragments your attention, it's costing you more than it gives. So he removed it, not emotionally, logically. This is a level of psychological maturity that most people never reach, because detachment is not easy, not because it's complicated, but because it forces you to confront something deeper. Your attachments are not about objects, they're about identity, and letting go of identity feels like losing yourself. This is where another powerful bias comes in, the sunk cost fallacy. You stay in environments that drain you. You maintain lifestyles that no longer serve you. You hold on to possessions you don't even enjoy anymore, simply because you've already invested too much into them. Time, money, effort, emotion. Walking away feels like failure. So you stay, even when it's costing you your energy, your focus, your potential. But Musk operates differently. He has no emotional attachment to sunk costs. If something is inefficient, it's gone. No hesitation, no nostalgia, no guilt. And that mindset comes from a place of abundance, the belief that your future will always be greater than your past, that what you can create will always outweigh what you currently have. And when you truly believe that, letting go becomes easy, because you are no longer protecting what you built. You are focused on what you can build next. Now bring this back to your life. You don't need to be a billionaire for this to apply, because this isn't about money. It's about mental freedom. Look around you, your room, your phone, your subscriptions, your expenses, your commitments. How many of these are actually moving you forward? And how many of them are just maintaining an identity? Because most people are not overwhelmed by ambition. They are overwhelmed by clutter. Clutter in their space, clutter in their schedule, clutter in their mind. And that clutter creates friction. It slows you down. It divides your focus. It quietly drains your potential. Every unnecessary possession is a silent responsibility. Every status symbol is a hidden contract. And every time you buy something to fill an emotional gap, you reinforce a cycle that keeps you dependent. This is the shift from having to being. When your confidence comes from what you own, you will always need more. But when your confidence comes from what you can create, you need nothing. That's real power. Musk didn't move into a small home to save money. He did it to protect his mind. Because the ultimate luxury is not space. It's clarity. The ability to think without noise, to act without hesitation, to focus without fragmentation. And as the world becomes more complex, this ability becomes more valuable. We are moving toward a future where access matters more than ownership, where speed matters more than size, where impact matters more than appearance. And in that world, the people who win will not be the ones who have the most. They will be the ones who need the least, because they are not distracted. They are not divided. They are not weighed down. They are focused. And focus is a force multiplier. So the next time you feel the urge to upgrade your life, pause. Look deeper. Ask yourself one question. Am I adding value, or am I just adding weight? Because if your life feels heavy, it's not because you're carrying too little. It's because you're carrying too much. That doesn't matter. And in the end, you don't own your possessions. They own your attention. And your attention is your life.